In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 MLB games happening on April 11, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 MLB games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. San Francisco Giants versus Baltimore Orioles. You know, sometimes a pitching matchup just screams at you before you even look at the lineups, and this is one of those nights. The San Francisco Giants roll into Camden Yards on Saturday riding a 3-game win streak, which honestly felt impossible just a week ago for a club that dropped to 5-8 and looked dead in the water. But Friday night's 6-3 victory changed the energy completely, and now you've got a team that's outscored opponents 17-3 during this current hot stretch. That matters because momentum in April is a funny thing. It tends to snowball when a young team suddenly believes it can play with anybody. On the other side, Baltimore just had their own 3-game win streak snapped in Friday's loss, and the vibe inside that clubhouse has to feel a little unsettled right now. Here's what really caught my eye though. Logan Webb takes the mound for San Francisco, and yeah, the 5-point earned run average through his first couple starts doesn't look great on paper, but let's put some context around it. This is a guy who threw over 200 innings in each of the last 3 seasons. He posted a 3.2 earned run average with a 1.24 whip across 207 innings in 2025. But he's not suddenly a different pitcher because of a couple of early season bumps. Webb's sinker and changeup combination is one of the most reliable ground ball packages in the National League, and Camden Yards, while friendly to hitters in certain spots, is not a park that automatically neutralizes heavy sinker usage. Meanwhile, Chris Bassett, who Baltimore signed this past offseason to a 1-year $18.5 million deal after 3 solid seasons in Toronto, has been nothing short of a disaster through his first 2 starts, a 14.21 earned run average. Let that sink in for a second. Now look, Bassett is a 12-year veteran. He's got over 1,000 career strikeouts, and his 3.96 earned run average from last year with the Blue Jays tells you he's still capable. But the reality is, he has only 3 strikeouts so far in 2026 and an 0-2 record, and whatever adjustment period he's going through with a new team, new catcher in Adley Rutschman, and a new pitching coach, it hasn't clicked yet. Early season or not, you can't ignore a gap that wide between 2 starters. San Francisco's lineup isn't world beaters right now, but Rafael Devers, who came over in last June's blockbuster trade from Boston, smacked a huge 3-run homer earlier this week and seems to finally be finding his footing after a sluggish start to his first full year as a Giant. Willie Adams homered Friday night. Young-Hoo Lee went deep too. Matt Chapman provides Gold Glove defense at third and reliable at-bats. Luis Arias, who was added in the offseason, gives this lineup a contact-oriented heartbeat it didn't have before. Baltimore's offense has talent, no question. Gunnar Henderson is a star, and Pete Alonso was supposed to anchor the middle of that order after signing as a free agent. But Alonso is hitting just 176. He went hitless with 2 strikeouts on Friday, and the Orioles are missing Jackson Holliday to Hamadi surgery, Jordan Westburg to a partially torn UCL on the 60-day injured list, and Heston Kjerstad to a hamstring strain. That's 3 significant lineup pieces just gone. When you stack all of this up, a proven workhorse on the mound against a veteran starter who clearly hasn't found his rhythm yet, combined with San Francisco's rising confidence and Baltimore's growing injury list, the picture becomes pretty clear. As our first pick for this matchup, the Giants' money line is our full game side pick. Now let's talk about how many runs we think end up on the scoreboard tonight. Honestly, the recent history between these 2 teams is kind of wild. When they met last August, the scores were 13-2, 1-11, and 15-8. Every single game last year between these 2 clubs featured crooked numbers, and there's something about this interleague matchup that just produces offense. Camden Yards has always been a hitter-friendly environment, especially in the spring and early summer months when the air is warmer and the ball carries a little differently. Saturday evening in Baltimore, mid-April, 66-degree game time temperature. That's pretty favorable for the ball to travel. But the biggest factor here honestly has nothing to do with the weather. It's the pitching. Chris Bassett's 14.21 earned run average isn't just a number you glance at and move on from. That means runners are getting on base at an alarming rate, and Baltimore's bullpen has already been stretched thin dealing with injuries to Zach Eflin, Felix Bautista, Andrew Kittredge, and Keegan Akin, all of whom are on the injured list. When the starter can't go deep into games and the relief corps is depleted, runs have a way of piling up in the middle to late innings. On the San Francisco side, Webb's earned run average sits at 5 point, which is above his career norms. He's been hittable early this year, and Baltimore does have some dangerous bats even without their injured players. Henderson is the kind of hitter who can change a game with one swing, and Rutschman behind the plate always seems to grind out quality at-bats. Even Colton Cowser has shown flashes of real pop. The Giants' bullpen has its own issues too, with arms like Sam Hentges, Hayden Birdsong, Randy Rodriguez, and Jose Butto all currently sidelined. That's a lot of missing relief depth for a team that might need its bullpen if Webb has another shorter outing. When both starting pitchers have inflated earned run averages, both bullpens are banged up, and the historical head-to-head matchups between these franchises have consistently gone high-scoring. You start to see the total creeping in one direction. Factor in Camden Yards, the warm April evening, and two lineups that both showed signs of life on Friday. And this game has the feel of something that could get out of hand in the later innings. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Boston Red Sox versus St. Louis Cardinals. We're locked in on Busch Stadium tonight for a Saturday showdown between the Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. And honestly, this one has some layers to it that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. Let's start with what's staring everybody in the face. Boston is sitting at 4 wins and 9 losses. That's dead last in the American League East, and you know what? It's not like they've been getting unlucky. They're averaging under 4 runs per game offensively, ranking 22nd in all of baseball, and the bats outside of one guy, Wilyer Abreu, have been mostly quiet. Abreu has been sensational with a batting average hovering near .383 and some real thump in his bat, but one guy can't carry an entire lineup night after night, especially on the road where Boston is now 1-6 this season. That's a brutal number. And here's the thing, when you look at who's taking the mound for the Red Sox tonight, it's Ranger Suarez. Now I know what you're thinking. This is the guy they paid $130 million to in January, the former All-Star out of Philadelphia who was supposed to stabilize the middle of the rotation behind Garrett Crochet and Sonny Gray. But Suarez has been, let's just say, not himself. His first 2 starts of 2026 have been forgettable, with 4 runs allowed in each outing, and he hasn't been able to get past the 4th inning in either game. The World Baseball Classic with Team Venezuela disrupted his entire spring training routine, and manager Alex Cora has openly acknowledged that they've had concerns about his buildup. He's basically pitching himself into shape in real games right now, and that's a problem when you're facing a Cardinals lineup that has been swinging the bats with some serious conviction. Because on the other side, the Cardinals are sitting at 8 wins and 5 losses. They're 4-2 at home this season. They just beat the Red Sox earlier today in Game 1 of the series by a score of 3-2, and their offense has been one of the more productive units in the National League, averaging nearly 5 runs per game. And the name everyone is talking about right now, Jordan Walker. This kid, 23 years old, was once the number 4 prospect in all of baseball, and after 2 frustrating seasons where it looked like the league might have figured him out, he has absolutely erupted. Walker is hitting .295 with a league-leading 5 home runs and 12 RBIs through his first 13 games. His exit velocity is in the 99th percentile among all qualified hitters. His barrel rate is in the 99th percentile. He's dropped his chase rate from 34% last year all the way down to 23%, and he's elevating the baseball instead of pounding it into the ground like he did in 2024 and 2025. Walker talked about it this week too, crediting the work he's done with assistant hitting coach Casey Chenoweth, and you can just see the confidence oozing out of him right now. He homered in 3 of his last 4 games heading into this series, and against a left-hander like Suarez who hasn't been commanding the zone, that's a recipe for damage. Walker has historically torched left-handed pitching, posting an absurd OPS over 1.800 against lefties this season. And it's not just Walker. Alec Burleson has been getting on base, Nolan Gorman has contributed with some pop, and J.J. Weatherholt has added some speed on the base paths. This is a lineup that doesn't need one guy to do everything. Kyle Leahy gets the start for the Cardinals tonight, and while he's not exactly a household name, his story is kind of fascinating. The 28-year-old from Boulder, Colorado spent all of 2025 in the bullpen, making 62 relief appearances and posting a solid 3.07 earned run average over 88 innings. The Cardinals decided this offseason to give him the same opportunity they gave Matthew Liberatore a year ago, transitioning him into the rotation full-time. In his first couple starts, you can see the growing pains of a guy stretching out. He's hit a wall around the 5th or 6th inning, but early in games he's been sharp, mixing 6 different pitches and generating a ton of ground balls. His manager Oliver Marmol has talked about Leahy's aptitude and maturity as the reasons they're confident he can handle the transition. So here's what I keep coming back to. You've got a Cardinals team that's playing well at home, that just won the first game of this series, that has one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball right now in Walker, and they're facing a Boston pitcher in Suarez who has given up 8 earned runs in 8.1 innings this season and is still working his way into form. The Red Sox offense beyond Abreu has been anemic, they've been dreadful on the road, and Boston's overall record tells you everything about how this team has been performing. St. Louis has the momentum, the home crowd, the better record, and the lineup depth to grind out runs even against a pitcher with Suarez's pedigree, especially when that pedigree hasn't shown up yet in 2026. The Cardinals are actually getting plus money in some spots tonight, which feels like a gift when you look at how these two clubs have been trending. As our first pick for this matchup, the St. Louis Cardinals money line is our full game side pick. Now let's talk about the total for this game, because I think this is where things get really interesting. When you look at the pitching matchup, you've got two guys on the mound who have been giving up runs. Suarez, like we just talked about, is rocking an 8.64 earned run average through 2 starts. He hasn't gone deeper than 4.1 innings in either outing, which means the Red Sox bullpen is going to get taxed again, and that bullpen has already surrendered 8 home runs in 35 innings this season. On the Cardinals side, Leahy has been decent but not dominant. His earned run average sits at 5.40 as a starter, and the Cardinals pitching staff as a whole has some numbers that jump off the page. St. Louis's pitching has the lowest strikeout rate in all of Major League Baseball at 15%. Let that sink in. The lowest. Their miss rate on swings is the lowest in the league too, meaning hitters are making contact, a lot of contact, and when you combine that with an overall staff earned run average near 4.95, you're looking at a pitching environment that's going to allow base runners. But here's the flip side. The Cardinals' offense is also putting up nearly 5 runs per game. They've scored 59 runs through 13 games, tied for 6th in the majors. Walker is obviously the headliner, but the lineup around him has been productive enough to keep rallies going. And Boston, even with their struggles, has the ability to score when they face pitching that lets them hang around. Abreu can do damage against any pitcher, and if Leahy leaves something over the plate, the Red Sox have enough capable hitters to push some runs across. The thing is, this game sets up as a scoring environment from both sides. Suarez's inability to go deep puts the game into bullpen arms that haven't been lights out. Leahy is still figuring out how to manage his stamina as a starter, and the Cardinals' bullpen, while it's been decent, has still allowed traffic. Neither team has an ace on the mound tonight. Neither team has a shutdown bullpen that you trust to slam the door in the late innings. Busch Stadium plays fairly neutral, but when you've got 2 pitching staffs that are allowing base runners at this rate and 2 offenses that are capable of capitalizing, especially with Walker swinging the way he's swinging right now, the runs tend to add up. The early game today finished 3-2, which looks low, but the starting pitchers in that game were different and both teams had fresh arms available. Tonight, both bullpens have been used, the starters have their respective issues, and the Cardinals lineup in particular is built to punish left-handed pitching, which is exactly what they'll see from Suarez. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Colorado Rockies versus San Diego Padres. There's something almost poetic about the way this Saturday shapes up at Petco Park, and it starts on the mound with a man who knows Colorado's clubhouse better than most of San Diego's current roster does. German Marquez spent his entire big league career wearing Rockies purple, all the way from his 2016 debut through a grueling Tommy John recovery, through an all-star nod in 2021, through some truly painful stretches pitching half his games at Coors Field. And now he's standing on the other side of that equation. He signed a 1-year deal with the Padres back in February, and honestly, the early returns have been fascinating. His last outing was a gem, 5 shutout innings against Pittsburgh where he scattered 6 hits, walked just 1, and looked completely in command of his stuff. Before that, yeah, he got roughed up by San Francisco in his season debut, so it hasn't been a perfectly clean slate. But here's the thing, you don't just erase a decade of institutional knowledge about a franchise's hitters because you changed your jersey. Marquez has faced these Rockies hitters hundreds of times in practice, in intra-squad games, in the daily grind of being teammates. He knows their tendencies, their timing, their weaknesses, and now he gets to exploit all of that from the opposing dugout in a pitcher-friendly park that couldn't be more different from Coors Field. Meanwhile, Ryan Feltner toes the rubber for Colorado, and while his 2026 numbers look shiny on the surface, the context tells a much messier story. His season debut in Toronto lasted only 3 innings after a 106-mile-per-hour comebacker off his hip forced him out of the game, and while he was sharp during those 3 frames, you can't build much of a sample off that. His second start at Coors Field against Houston went 5 1/3 innings, but the Astros tagged him for 4 earned runs and the Rockies needed an 8-run 5th-inning rally to bail him out. Feltner is a guy who missed most of 2025 with back and shoulder injuries, made only 6 starts all season, and is still finding his footing. He's going to be pitching on the road at Petco Park, which is about as hostile an environment as you can find for a fly ball pitcher trying to establish confidence. The Padres lineup has star power that Colorado simply can't match. Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, and Xander Bogaerts, the guy who just crushed a walk-off grand slam Thursday night in the 12th inning against these same Rockies, are all legitimate threats every single time through the order. And behind them, San Diego's bullpen is anchored by Mason Miller, who might genuinely be unhittable right now. Miller has a scoreless inning streak stretching back to August of last year, over 27 innings of pure dominance, and he struck out 13 batters in just over 5 innings this season with a batting average against below .06. The Rockies have some scrappy young bats. Guys like TJ Rumfield and Troy Johnston have had nice starts, but this Colorado roster finished 43 and 119 last season for a reason. They're improved, sure, but improved and competitive against a loaded Padres roster at Petco Park are 2 very different conversations. Marquez's familiarity with Colorado's lineup, combined with San Diego's superior talent depth and the massive bullpen advantage, creates a scenario where the home team should control this game from start to finish. As our first pick for this matchup, the San Diego Padres money line is our full game side pick. The way these 2 pitching staffs have been operating through the first couple weeks of the season tells you a lot about what Saturday night should look like, and it paints a picture that leans heavily toward restraint. Petco Park has always been one of the best pitchers' parks in baseball. The marine layer rolls in off the Pacific, the dimensions are generous, and baseballs just don't carry the same way they do at most other stadiums. It's the anti-Coors Field in every meaningful way. And when you put German Marquez on that mound, a guy who spent his entire career inflated by Coors and is now benefiting from the opposite effect, you're looking at someone whose stuff should play up considerably. His 5-inning shutout against Pittsburgh last time out wasn't a fluke. It was Petco Park doing exactly what it does to a pitcher with good command and solid secondary pitches. On the other side, Feltner's stuff isn't overpowering enough to generate a ton of swings and misses, which means he relies on weak contact and defense. At Petco, that approach can actually work in his favor too. Balls that would carry out at Coors or other hitter-friendly parks tend to die on the warning track in San Diego. The Padres' offense, for all the star names in the lineup, has actually been sluggish early in 2026. San Diego entered this series with a team batting average around .214 and an OPS hovering near .618, which is below league average. The power hasn't shown up yet either, with the Padres ranking near the bottom of the league in home runs through the first couple weeks. Colorado's offense has been a little bit better on paper, but the Rockies have benefited heavily from playing games at Coors Field, and their road numbers drop off significantly. They're 2-4 away from home entering this series for a reason. Thursday night's game underscored this dynamic perfectly as the 2 teams combined for just 2 runs through 9 innings before extras inflated the final score. That game was a genuine pitcher's duel, with Randy Vasquez dealing 5.2 innings of 1-run ball and Mason Miller striking out the side in the 9th. The Rockies' bullpen kept things tight too, with Chase Dollander throwing 4.1 solid innings in a bulk roll. Both team earned run averages are sitting below 4, and the early season trend for both clubs has leaned toward lower scoring affairs, particularly when Colorado goes on the road. When you combine a pitcher-friendly venue, 2 starting pitchers who aren't exactly flamethrowers but can induce weak contact, an underperforming San Diego offense, and a Colorado lineup that struggles away from altitude, everything points toward a game that stays compact and quiet. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Texas Rangers versus Los Angeles Dodgers. Look, I know what you're thinking. The Dodgers are 10-3. They just walked off last night on a Max Muncy 3-homer masterpiece, and they're playing at home where they've been nearly untouchable so far this year at 5-2. Why would anyone in their right mind look at a Texas Rangers moneyline ticket tonight and feel good about it? I get it. But here's the thing, sometimes the best value in baseball isn't about picking who has the better roster on paper, it's about finding the right matchup on the right night. And tonight, the matchup tilts in a direction a lot of people aren't expecting. Let's start on the mound, because that's where this whole game lives and dies. Jack Leiter is having one of those early season stretches where everything just clicks. In his first 2 starts of 2026, he's punched out 17 batters while walking only 2 across 11 innings. His season debut against Baltimore was a statement, 6 innings of 2-run ball with 8 strikeouts, and he followed that up against Cincinnati by going 5 innings, allowing just 1 run with 9 punchouts. The command issues that plagued him in 2025, where he walked a team-leading 67 batters, honestly seem like a different era right now. He looks like a pitcher who figured something out over the winter. Meanwhile, the guy he's going up against tonight is dealing with some serious concerns. Emmett Sheehan carries an 8 earned run average into this start, and it's not just a small sample size fluke. His fastball velocity has dropped nearly 2 full miles per hour from last season, sitting around 93.8 compared to the 95.6 he averaged in 2025. Dave Roberts has publicly acknowledged the issue, saying the coaching staff believed they had a mechanical fix heading into Sheehan's last outing against the Nationals, but the velocity still didn't come back. Sheehan himself has admitted the timing of his delivery isn't where it should be. Now yes, he did settle down in that second start, giving the Dodgers 5 2/3 innings after a rough first frame, but you can't ignore the fact that a pitcher losing nearly 2 ticks on his heater is a pitcher operating with a thinner margin for error. And then there's the roster context that makes this even more interesting. The Dodgers are without Mookie Betts, who's been on the 10-day injured list since April 5th with a right oblique strain. They're also still missing Blake Snell, Tommy Edman, Gavin Stone, Kike Hernandez, Bobby Miller, and Evan Phillips. That's a staggering amount of talent on the shelf for a team trying to chase a three-peat. The Rangers, on the other hand, are running out a lineup anchored by Corey Seager, who just smacked a 3-run homer last night off Tyler Glasnow, and Wyatt Langford, who's been slashing an absurd line to start the year with 5 homers already. Evan Carter went deep in the 9th inning last night, Sam Haggerty brings chaos on the bases, and Brandon Nimmo adds legitimate power and on-base ability at the top of the order. This Texas lineup isn't the pushover that a 7-6 record might suggest. They've allowed the 3rd fewest runs in all of baseball, and their pitching staff just swept the Mariners while giving up a total of 3 runs across 3 games. The Rangers know how to keep games close, and when you pair that with a starter who's dealing the way Leiter has been, you've got a genuine recipe for an upset. The Dodgers are going to the well with a shaky arm on the mound tonight, and the value sitting on the other side is hard to ignore. As our first pick for this matchup, the Texas Rangers money line is our full game side pick. Last night's fireworks at Dodger Stadium might have you thinking runs are going to keep flying out of the yard tonight, and honestly, that's a fair instinct after watching a 15-run slugfest. But the dynamics of this game look fundamentally different when you break down what's actually happening on both sides of the pitching matchup. Jack Leiter has been one of the most efficient young arms in the American League through his first 2 starts. He's generating swings and misses at an elite rate while keeping the free passes to almost nothing, and that combination tends to suppress run scoring in a big way. When a pitcher is inducing 18 swinging strikes on 85 pitches the way he did against Cincinnati, that's a guy who's attacking the zone with conviction and not giving hitters anything easy to barrel up. His 2.45 earned run average through 2 starts isn't a mirage either. It's backed up by the process of how he's getting outs. On the flip side, yes, Sheehan has been leaking runs. But there's a counter-argument worth making here. His second start showed real improvement after a brutal debut, and he'll be working on 7 days of rest tonight, which gives him extra time to work on those mechanical adjustments the Dodgers have been tinkering with. The Dodgers' bullpen behind Sheehan has been solid outside of Edwin Diaz's blown save last night, and guys like Alex Vesia and Blake Treinen have been reliable arms all season. If Sheehan can even give them 4 or 5 competitive innings, the back end of that pen can lock things down. Then you look at the Rangers' offense and you see a unit that's been scoring only 3.7 runs per game, ranking 23rd in baseball with a team batting average sitting at .234. They're not a lineup that's going to string together huge rallies on a consistent basis. And this is a Dodgers pitching staff, even without Snell and Stone, that knows how to execute at home. The cool April evening air at Dodger Stadium tends to play a little bit more neutral than the day games, and with Leiter dialed in and Sheehan getting extra rest, the recipe for a lower scoring affair is right there staring at us. You won't always see it when the previous night featured homers flying around like confetti, but tonight's game has a completely different heartbeat. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Houston Astros versus Seattle Mariners. There's something about the Houston Astros that people forget when the early season record looks messy. You look at that 6-7 mark, you see the 1-5 road record, and you think this team is broken. But the Astros aren't broken. They're just running into the same problem a lot of talented offensive clubs deal with in April, which is pitching depth that hasn't caught up to the bats yet. And tonight in Seattle, that offense gets a chance to flex against a Mariners team that honestly might be dealing with a bigger identity crisis than anyone wants to admit. Here's the thing about Houston's lineup. Christian Walker is hitting .340 with 13 RBI and a .640 slugging percentage, and he's done it while hitting safely in 10 of his last 11 games. Yordan Alvarez is carrying a .500 on-base percentage, which leads all qualified hitters in baseball, along with 4 home runs and a .683 slugging mark. Jose Altuve is sitting at .333, doing what Altuve always does. And Carlos Correa, back in Houston after his stint with Minnesota, has already launched a 3-run homer this season and is batting .276 with 7 RBI through his first handful of games. This isn't some scrappy lineup trying to scratch together runs. This is a lineup that ranks among the best in the American League in team batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging. More importantly, they've got the 3rd lowest strikeout rate in the majors at 19.1%, which means they put the ball in play and they make pitchers work. That's the kind of lineup that can wear Luis Castillo down, especially because when Houston faces a starting pitcher for the 3rd time through the order, they're hitting .396, and that number is the best in all of baseball. Castillo's no slouch, obviously. He's sitting at a 2.79 earned run average in 2 starts, and he had that dominant 2.60 earned run average in home starts last season. But he's also 33 years old now. His velocity has been trending down for 2 consecutive seasons, and his strikeout rate dipped below league average in 2025 for the first time in his career. This is not the same guy who was fooling hitters in Cincinnati. The Mariners lean on their pitching to cover an offense that, frankly, isn't covering anything right now. Seattle scored a total of 3 runs in their 3-game series against the Rangers earlier this week. 3 runs in 3 games. Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Josh Naylor, and Randy Arozarena entered that series with 0 home runs combined and a collective .137 batting average. Naylor is hitting .104 on the season, which is obviously unsustainable, but the point is that this offense is ice cold and it's making life miserable for a pitching staff that's been doing more than enough to win. Lance McCullers Jr. takes the mound for Houston, and he looked really sharp in his season debut, throwing 7 full innings against Boston while allowing just 1 run on 4 hits with 9 strikeouts and only 1 walk. That was his first start since 2022 because of a 2-year injury layoff, and the fact that he came out and dominated like that tells you the stuff is still there. McCullers leans on that devastating curveball, and when it's working, it can neutralize any lineup in the league. The Astros also carry the advantage of being a team that thrives in high-pressure division matchups. They've been in this rivalry for years, they know T-Mobile Park, and even though their road record is ugly right now, a lot of that damage came from getting swept in Colorado, which is a completely different animal than any other road trip in baseball. Factor in the underdog value here, the offensive firepower, and the fact that McCullers has already proven he can pitch deep into games this season, and the case starts to build itself. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Astros money line is our full game side pick. Now, if you watched last night's game between these 2 teams, you already have a pretty good idea of where this is heading. That game finished 9-6 in favor of Seattle, 15 total runs, and honestly, that felt like a preview of what this series is going to be about, because when you strip everything away, the structural profile of this matchup points to crooked numbers on the scoreboard. Houston's pitching staff is in genuine crisis mode right now. Josh Hader is on the 15-day injured list with biceps tendonitis, and he's supposed to be the anchor of that bullpen. Hunter Brown is out with a shoulder strain. Christian Javier left his last start after throwing just a single inning because of right shoulder tightness. Bennett Sousa, Enyel de los Santos, Ronel Blanco, Nate Pearson, Hayden Wesneski, all on the injured list. The Astros currently have the worst bullpen earned run average in all of baseball at 7.09, and they've given up 35 runs in their last 4 games before arriving in Seattle. Think about that for a second. 35 runs in 4 games. That's not a slump, that's a structural problem, and it doesn't just magically fix itself overnight. Even if McCullers is solid through 5 or 6 innings, the back end of the Houston pitching staff has been a revolving door of guys trying to find their footing. On the other side, Luis Castillo has been fine, but fine is different from dominant. He's working with a 2.79 earned run average, and his 1.24 WHIP suggests he's putting runners on base with more regularity than you'd want from a guy the Mariners are counting on to anchor the rotation. His career home earned run average at T-Mobile Park is a sparkling 2.80, but that's based on a track record where he had better velocity and a deeper arsenal. The changeup that used to be his bread and butter pitch during his Reds days, he barely throws it anymore, and when a pitcher's velocity ticks down and his pitch mix narrows, eventually hitters catch up, especially hitters as disciplined as Houston's, who don't chase and who rarely strike out. Meanwhile, Seattle's offense, for all the struggles, is due for some kind of correction. Brendan Donovan has been one of the best hitters in baseball to start the year, batting .316 with 2 home runs since arriving from St. Louis. And he became the first player in franchise history to hit a leadoff home run on opening day. The Mariners' bats have been cold, but the underlying numbers suggest bad luck more than decline, particularly for Naylor, whose expected batting average based on quality of contact is over 100 points higher than his actual average. When a lineup that includes Rodriguez, Raleigh, Naylor, Donovan, Arizarena, and a recently returned J.P. Crawford starts making even slightly better contact, the runs are going to come. And with Houston's bullpen hemorrhaging runs at a historic pace, any game where the Astros need more than 5 or 6 innings from their starter becomes a shootout waiting to happen. Last night proved exactly that. The ballpark is pitcher-friendly, sure, but no ballpark in America can suppress runs when the pitching staff behind the starter is posting a 7.09 earned run average. When the bats on one side are elite and the relief pitching on the other side is leaking oil, you get the kind of game that went 9-6 last night, and there's nothing about tonight's pitching matchup that suggests things will tighten up dramatically. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.